Hi, I'm Gary Allen. Today we share with you a common problem, and that is overgrowth, especially near the entrance of a home. Today we'll open up this entrance on the designer's landscape. You know, when you think about it, when it comes to landscape longevity, in other words, how things are going to look for the long haul or over a period of time, maintenance is important, the pruning and clipping. But as a common thought, we usually do this. We put plants in that are going to outgrow their space. And that's the situation here. The lower pedalum could be clipped or pruned, and there are some dwarf varieties now that we could use to lower that. But even the holly fern, they're kind of taking over or evading the sidewalk a little bit. So we've got to make some decisions. Even the variegated ivy, do we keep it on the tree and try to keep it fine-tuned here? What plants will we try to transplant or relocate, like these hollies, the Ilex vomitoria schillings here? We can clip or cut these back a little more, as you see the one I've done here, and really allow us to maybe relocate these since they transplant pretty well. More holly fern here, that's kind of making a linear look, if you will, so we want to kind of tie in this area to the next. You see this for a second? The lower pedalum and the holly over here, and then the holly fern on this side. We need to marry these two sides together with a similar planting. Even the Chamaerops palm, it's kind of outgrown its space, it's tall, and I've got to take a look at that as we prune and clean it up. These unwanted fronds that are a little messy or have spent their time, and we clean the underneath. Do we transplant him or do we use him as an accent to the front, as has been done in the past? And then you see this natural look, we go into a shaded situation, so we look forward to giving a facelift to the entire front of this house. But there are some big challenges in the backyard. Can't wait to show that to you. Major challenges to deal with here, we'll come in with a segmental retaining wall and kind of bring up to level this portion off of the deck. You see how we're falling off here? We still need to keep some turf grass in order to control erosion, but I think from this tree, if we can have our wall kind of meander out here, step it down in a couple layers, we can extend the patio surface, if you will, on this same height and really allow it to be used as a planter. Homeowner has to come in a foot or so off the patio with a wrought iron looking fence, the aluminum. And so that'll decorate things up. Where we put the gate, some of those challenges, the turf grass that gets removed here. Of course, we have to mow and get it down first too. So again, major challenges to deal with. Now we'll have more details in the back, but I want to get the guys to go ahead and mow that berm and that hill and get it low enough where we can cut sod out where we need to. In the meantime, let's draw or consider some new beds here in the front yard. We have this existing palm tree, which is kind of like a telephone pole now. Again, with the 15 or 20 years of existence here, it's climbed up through the picture, but we still need a bed around it. So I think with that in mind, I'm going to head towards you. And you notice that the driveway here has a nice smooth or curved radius. I'm going to take this and kind of make an oval shape out of it. Let's see how this works. Now, I want this wide enough to make an impression, but basically, I think this is going to at least make things look better at the street, if you will. Can you see that nice, easy to mow curve? Not that this was hard to mow, but again, low ground covers and all here with color are going to help give that curb appeal or impact. Now, I know we do this kind of predictably, and even so, I think it's going to add a little bit. As you look down the street, you see how everyone's kind of shy to have beds go all the way to the street? Well, we're going to break the rules there, because as you come down the road, these beds are going to snap out at you and give you that curb appeal. So where I have the cable box behind here, I'll really do a similar type curve or radius. I've got this existing bed of azaleas here. We're going to use that. We're going to tie into it and connect it to the street. So instead of it being an island now, it will have some purpose. I'll meander out to make this mowing edge even more attractive, if you will, and head into the shade under the oak trees here. Now, before I finish this radius, and I say radius because those are the easy to mow lines, we're in between the neighboring bed. So let me round this off and we'll see how that shapes up. But then we've got something to contend with, and that is the neighbor's property. How we tie together, because we're going to remove the outside grass. All right, that'll continue to the front door. But again, here's our dilemma. How much grass do we take? Just to the property line? Or can we influence the design here and work things out together? Often, more times than not, there's a distinct divider or a hedge between one property and the next. Well, with this cable box, even as a visionary block, we still say, this is one homeowner, this is another. But you see, we want to soften the cable box from this side here. Now, we could leave a straight line down the property, around the box, and over here, another corners and a lot of hard work. But since this house is for sale and it's not occupied, it gives us the opportunity to kind of do some things for them. Now, we don't recommend that you do that. You need to check with your neighbors. But again, rather than dividing, we want this bed to look continuous. So I'll come up to this existing oak tree. I'll work the grass through here and kind of come right along and tip the edge of the box. And again, instead of a corner then, we've at least got a smooth edge or a radius to mow with. Now, I think that helps. In other words, instead of dividing visually, let's work it out together. Two curves on both sides, low plants, and the box is hidden in the middle. Well, I was looking at the overall health of these holly trees, and I'm a little bit concerned about it. So we want to talk with an expert that really can give us a professional opinion on the health of these trees. Early Piety of Specialty Tree.
Hi, Gary.
Hey, good to have you today. We called you out here really to kind of diagnose the situation for the hollies.
These are Dahoon hollies. They're in a mature state. They're probably 15, 20 years old, maybe a little older than that. And they look a little chlorotic. The leaves are a little bit yellow on them, but that's just the time of year. As the next 2 or 3 weeks goes on and this new growth comes out, the hollies will look a lot better. They seem to have taken a little bit of construction damage when this pool and this patio was put in here, and that has probably messed up this side of the root system, which makes it hard for the plant to uptake enough water and nutrients. Yeah. This one also had, over here I noticed on this side, a girdling root. What happens is the root grows across the base of the stem of the tree, and as the tree puts on a ring each year and the root puts on a ring each year, it presses up against each other and cuts off the sap flow in this area, making it hard for the nutrients to pass up there. It's kind of like a rubber band effect on your finger. What should happen in this particular case is we should come in here with a sharp saw and cut as much of this girdling root away from the tree as possible.
Now these, the two of these guys look pretty good, and we're hoping fertilization will help kind of bring them back, but there's a couple down here that don't look so hot.
Let's take a look at them.
Early, I guess the question is, what are the chances of this guy surviving?
Well, this old boy took a beating when they put the patio in. You can imagine this as being a grassed backyard, and then them taking up all the roots of the tree and pouring this concrete, so effectively you've only got this much of the root system left. You can tell that by the shape of the tree. It's very, very thin. It's got a lot of dieback, the construction damage. The classic staghorning effect of the tree is where the tree grows, dies back, and you get these staghorns up there. Common sense will tell you that this is certainly a candidate for removal. If the homeowner, if the homeowner wants to keep it, nothing wrong with keeping it. Clear the grass out of here, open it up a little bit, do some other things to it, and make the tree live. And if the homeowner didn't care about it, take it out of there.
Yeah. No, and even your opinion too about you would recover this space back for the patio,
sure.
And before they surface it, they could pour this and then have the cool decking, and it all kind of hide each other out.
That's right. And this tree is kind of old anyway. You can see here on the side where it's got some old fungus infection, and it's just getting kind of old. And here's the one that the weed eater eat a lot of the bark off the base of the tree. Yeah. So all in all, this tree is not in the world's best shape. So, it could be removed.
This guy's the same way, but again, I guess we just have to make a judgment call.
Just make a judgment call. Because this one is out on the side of the hill, and the ability of the root system to recapture its growth potential and regrow a root system out here, this tree could probably make it and fill in and be a very good specimen tree. So we ought to leave this one for at least a year and see if we can encourage the growth on it and come back and be a nice pretty tree.
Yeah, again, with fertilization, and now we're going to reestablish the irrigation, make that automatic. Why, those two elements will help.
Sure. And one other thing that we need to mention is sod management practices in this area. When it was all grassed around here, I'm sure that some of the reason that this tree looks as bleak as it does is because they were probably using some type of weed and feed product up under the base of the tree. Oh. Remember, tree roots grow 3 times further out than the tree is tall, so you don't really want to put any type of chemical weed control product in that area. And if you do, it will begin to kill the tree just like it kills the weeds in your grass. Atrazine is a known broadleaf herbicide. It kills broadleaf plants. Well, guess what this is? Yeah. A broadleaf plant. So the bottom line is you never want to use any type of atrazine product within the branch structure of any tree or shrub. That's the furthest extension of the branches.
Okay, makes sense. Appreciate your help.
You're welcome.
What do you say we talk fertilizer for a moment? People ask me all the time, Gary, what fertilizer do you recommend? And it's kind of hard to say. Really, that's almost like saying what's your favorite color without insulting someone. There are literally so many types of fertilizers on the market today, it's hard for a consumer to really understand the complexity of just different types or varieties. So let's see if we can take Fertilizer 101 and make it simple. As some of you may be well aware, the 8-10-10 here on this bag, whether it's a 6-6-6, 10-10-10, 12-12-12, 24-4-14, whatever, those are the first 3 elements that plants need in large amounts. They're called macronutrients. Nitrogen, the first number, phosphorus in the middle, and potash. In other words, a plant utilizes these more so than any other necessary element, even though there are 16 altogether elements that are utilized in plant metabolism. So while these are important, there's more to the picture. Having these macronutrients, it may be well and good, but it can also lead to micronutrient deficiency. For example, in the sandy soils of the South, iron is a common micronutrient deficiency found in ornamentals, in trees, and even annuals and flowers. So this mix has 3% iron in it, and that's key. That's the reason I selected it. Also, as far as palm trees go, magnesium and manganese can be one of their deficient early running elements. So this is loaded with 2%, and that helps the green color. But it also helps it in turf grass as well as trees and flowers. You see, this is labeled palm and tropical ornamental fertilizer. Now, what makes this different from rose food or a citrus special or even a good lawn food or azalea camellia gardenia fertilizer? Well, if you turn over the back and do the analysis of the chemical compositions in the fertilizer and what they're made up of, you'll find just minor differences. So how can we make all of this simple? That would be to find a good slow-release fertilizer, and really, that you use on your lawn, use it on your trees and ornamentals and shrubs. I say slow-release because that won't burn, so that's a key thing to look for. When it comes to fertilizers, there's organics and inorganics, but again, in this mix, I have a good mix of, or an addition of some minor elements. You can take a vitamin C or a vitamin A and then take a B, or you can take a multiple vitamin that gives you all the trace elements that your body needs to metabolize on a cellular level. So a complete fertilizer, the NPK 666 plus all these little minor elements really make for a complete feeding, if you will. And so that's key or important to me. So that's the best knowledge I can pass on to you. Another key when you're reading fertilizer bags, I notice on this one it says for new plantings, the fertilizer may be incorporated into the soil prior to planting or top dressed on top later. What that tells me is that it is slow release enough to mix in with flowers, annuals, and trees and shrubs that it won't burn. And that's key. You see, a slow release fertilizer breaks down every time it gets water. So you extend your fertilization period maybe over, instead of a one shot or 1 or 2 days, to a 30 or 45 day period. That means you get more bang for your buck you get an extended fertilization period, which again helps the plant feed slowly. So again, try to keep it simple. Find one good slow release fertilizer that supplies all your needs, and take all those other little bags and set them aside. I'm really looking at our configuration here of plants. The patio ligustrum tree is a clear trunk specimen, and since the plants have kind of come and encroached underneath the canopy, it doesn't stand out as being a clear trunk specimen. So our goal in rearranging here too would be to bring in some lower plants that really accent that tree. I expect that the loropetalum, because it has not necessarily a tight, compact growth habit like the Ilex schillings does, that the root system is going to be about the same. When you look at a plant that has a foliage that's tight and very, I'll say closely knitted, the root system probably kind of represents that same type of look. So I will expect in digging this that, well, some of the roots they may lose some of that soil from around them. These have not been in the ground too long, so I don't have to dig too deep where the wooden handles can break if they season out. All right, now that feels pretty good so far. Not a bad root system at all. You see that soil moisture, again, because I can do that and it stays together, that means he'll transplant really well. We should have no problem there. Let's go do the holly and see how he comes out. Not a bad looking little root ball. Oh yeah, now we might not move back or move all these, but you see the fibrous root system that we talked about? Nice and tight there. These should transplant really well. If we have follow-up care or irrigation, why, that should even really help too. What I'm going to do for now, pull him back into the hole and let him sit. So you can do root pruning, actually leave them in their original hole until you get ready to move them. So that'll be pretty good. Come over here as we look close on the holly fern. Actually, you look at the back of these, somebody said, oh, are these infected with bugs? But actually, those are spores, new seeds, if you will, for the future generation. I could do a couple things. We could try to take this, move him back underneath here and make a nice cut. I'm going to use him as an example because he hadn't had his spring flush yet. I could also come in here and trim off the head of this, cut him way back. Not really that concerned about the foliage. You move this guy behind you here, and you can see I could actually transplant what would be this root ball with this short stunted growth. Now, again, we can fertilize him, move them where they need to go, and look for this new growth to come out and put a nice presentation on after he's adjusted to the transplanting. But to get this initial presentation, we'll dig some of these as is to try to carry the foliage over to that new location. Oh, by the way, from the angle you're looking at things with the Ilex schillings, what I think I want to do to achieve this balance, instead of moving all of them, we'll leave these front and take this square cluster in the back, pull them over here. We'll move the holly fern so we get a little left-right balance. Then we'll lower plants in the front, lower plants in the back here, and that'll look pretty good. We still have some questions about the Chamaerops palm. It's kind of done its thing. In other words, it's extended up for a period of time and it's not a low specimen anymore. If we can find another home for it, we might consider that. We'll see how the homeowners feel about that before we make that a final decision. I do like the way things have shaped up here. We've come in across the driveway. We had a narrow little strip of grass. And what we've done is put a little more turf over there in a curved pattern, a little half circle, so that really gives us a little bit of balance. Again, now these beds are going to look better and it'll go with the turf grass as we cross over the driveway. Some improvements, opening things up at the street. Now that our bed line is cleaned out there along the driveway, it looks good. Also, you remember the part that we drew at the cable box, the common area. That's cleaned out now. The variegated ivy, we didn't show you this before, but it had arms and legs crawling way out here. What we did is took that and folded it back toward itself so that we keep the presentation right under the tree with it. And with the holly fern, all this coming out, we're going to transplant it here under the shady little area of the magnolia and some other trees. So we had variegated ginger in here. We've transplanted them around the corner by the AC, and they look good along the wall, doing their thing. So what do you say with this space now? We put a couple rows of holly fern, and then we'll save the front for some color or presentation. But give us a little while to move some things around, and we'll see what a difference it'll make. What do you think? We've opened things up. Would you not agree that the specimen tree now looks more such like a specimen? So our concept now is to bring in things that are lower and really show themselves instead of getting too bulky or big and kind of blocking our scenery. I mean, we even have these brick planters here. And can you see how we've relocated the Ilex shillings, both on the right and left side here for this extra balance? It's working. It's really neat because if we reflect back on how things looked just moments ago, and now that we've opened everything up, like I mentioned, it gives us a new palette with which to work. One thing to mention about the palm tree here is we took off the suckers that were coming up, and so we'll leave him as a clear trunk specimen. Also, there was some Japanese yew on the back wall, and we planted them in these planter boxes near the house as standalone specimens also. The holly fern, the Ilex shillings here now that gives us our balance to begin with, and the holly fern that continues all the way under the shade in its transplanting. There is one thing I'm really going to enjoy the way things shape up, and that is our jump across the walk here. Remember, we had a little stretch of sod here, kind of high maintenance. Don't you think this makes a little bit more sense? And that is the fact that we curve or tie this sod in with the opening here. Plus, it'll give our entrance a feeling that not only are the Ilex shillings, but our entrance will be pulled out to this point. Also, with the tree here and here, we could have one continuous bed, but I like the way the sod gives us a point of entry, both visually and to get the lawnmower and things inside the lawn. Now, we have some work going on in the back, so what do you say we catch up with some things there? As you can see, the addition to our family are these three beautiful Washingtonia robustas. Now, all palm trees are not created equal. And what I mean by that is even when you go shopping for palm trees, you'll find some that have smaller trunks and some that are robust, like these. I mean, you can tell these had healthy watering during a lower stage of their, or a younger part of their life, and then the trunks kind of slimmed down a little bit. As we light these with landscape lighting, this will become a focal point off the homeowner's view, off the patio between there and the lake view. And also, we've got some work going on with our wall and irrigation, so we need to talk about that. With all the hard work involved in this segmental retaining wall, we've added an extra feature to it. And that is, we really want to add a step for the homeowners, if you will. With the fence coming in, we'll have a gate here. And so having that step is going to be really essential for them being able to get down on the lower deck, whether it's for maintenance or even to walk around. As you can see, the back of our wall, we've backfilled with some of the gravel. We'll use some filter cloth and then grade all this in and put it together. Also, we're stubbed up here for irrigation. We just did that, so we'll put those heads on and the water will actually spray through the open fence, over the wall, and onto the grass in the base. It's amazing. Do you remember what this looked like just moments ago before a wall was installed? And with backfilling and all, ooh, landscape is going to look so good. What do you say you revisit with us? And we'll review all the hard work we've achieved to today, to this point. Now things are looking pretty good, but soon they'll look even better. So be sure to join us on the next Designer's Landscape. I'm Gary Allen. I'll see you.